Alright guys, so after releasing the video that I did last week on the Moondrop old-fashioned headphones, I got a lot of comments in the comment section asking why I didn't compare them to the KOSS Porta Pros. In fact, I even had comments accusing me that Moondrop paid me to not, cover or even talk about the KOSS Porta Pros in the video with the Moondrops. First off, Moondrop didn't even send me the headphones. I just honestly didn't reference them and didn't compare them because it's been so long since I've tried the Porta Pros that honestly it wouldn't be fair to try to compare a headphone that I'm testing right now to a headphone that I haven't listened to in years. But it did at least get me interested in saying, well, what is the difference really between the KOSS Porta Pros and the Moondrop old-fashioned headphones? So I ordered a pair of the KOSS Porta Pro Classics to be able to compare these, and there's a lot of reasons you would want to compare them. They both retail for around $50, although right now I'm not really sure if it's just because it's the holidays, but both of these can be picked up from around 25 to 30 bucks. So it's already, on the lower end when it comes to pricing. But even looking at them, they both share that similar headphone style that looks like it's a pair of headphones that came with the Walkman back in the 80s, or even like the portable CD players that came out in the 90s. So, there are some resemblances here, but there's also a lot of huge differences. And again, it's kind of worth making this video to talk about that. So let's go ahead and start first with the look and the design of both of these. If you hold them side by side, you will see that the Moondrop is actually noticeably larger. Now, the headband on the KOSS Porta Pros have this little slider adjustment on top of it that kind of expands it out more. I'm not a huge fan of this because when you take the headphones off, it always goes back down to the small size. So you always have to kind of refit it to your head every time that you put these on. And I'm also going to say from a comfort standpoint, I find the Moondrops to be a lot more comfortable. I feel like the KOSS Porta Pros have a more of a clamp or a tight fit on the side of my head. Now they do have these little sliders that say light and firm on the side, so it will kind of adjust how tight it is on the part that sits right about at your temple. There's a little foam pad there. But honestly, I don't notice a huge difference even going from light to firm. So, even though it's there, I don't really feel like it's doing a whole lot. But where there's a big difference in these, one, the ear pads are larger on the Moondrops over the KOSS Porta Pros. Although KOSS, you can go and actually buy oversized foam pads, which then kind of resemble the size that are on the Moondrop. So you can get something that's comparable, but out of the box, the ear pads on the KOSS Porta Pros are smaller. Now, both of these are open back headphones. So although they look small and portable, I'm not the biggest fan of using these on the go and in public because they're open back. They do leak a lot of sound. And I would say both of these leak about the same amount. If you're going to listen to these at a decent volume, people around you are just going to be able to hear basically what it is you're listening to. So always keep that in mind. But the Porta Pros make it look like it's an on-the-go headphone because these fold down, they get to a really small footprint, and they even include this little leather or pleather pouch to be able to store them in and be able to take them on the go. But again, I kind of use both of these as at-home headphones, just plugged in, to my desktop or into the amp that I have at my desktop. I wouldn't use either one of these in public or on the go just because of how much sound they leak. Now, another thing that separates the Moondrop from the Porta Pros is the modular design that they decided to go with. So both of these ear cups do remove from the headband. In fact, the metal part of the headband does remove from here as well. The cable on these is removable, where on the Porta Pros it's not. In fact, they use a 2-pin connection, which I actually like because that's something that's pretty common with a lot of IEMs. And another thing I like is the options to which you can buy cables for the Moondrops. So the Porta Pros only come with a non-detachable cable, and it is only a 3.5mm connection. Now with the Moondrop, you have the option when you're ordering these that you can either get a 3.5mm connection, a 4.4mm balanced connection, or you can get a USB-C cable connection, which all of you guys know that's pretty much what every device uses now. So that kind of makes these a lot more versatile, not only because you have the different options, but the USB-C cable makes it even more of an option for people that are just using their cell phones. Now, the reason that Moondrop has this modularity and the ability to take these things apart in different sections is because they are also going to be releasing kits where you can have an ear hook to be able to put on the ear pads, so you don't actually have to use the headband. So you can just wear them just around your ears. And I actually like this because there's some times where I just don't want that headband going across the top of my head. So now we're going to get into what I feel is the biggest difference between both of these, because we've already talked about the size and how the Moondrop is bigger, the Porta Pros are much smaller, the ear pads are bigger on the Moondrops, where the ear pads on the Porta Pros are smaller. So you would think smaller just means less. And even driver wise, the Porta Pros are using a 35mm driver, where the old-fashioned Moondrop headphones are using a 40mm driver. So the Moondrops have a larger driver, and it also advertises with Moondrop that they're using different type of inserts to try to bring out the low end a little bit more, because this style of headphone, though, especially the ones that came with the Walkman and the portable CD players in the past, aren't really ever known for having good low end. And the Moondrop kind of surprised me in how much low end that they had. But the big surprise here is the KOSS Porta Pros actually do a better job with bass. There's more punch in the low end. It does a better job with sub bass. It even has, I don't want to say they're bloated because it's not, but it has more bloat to the low end in the Porta Pros than what the Moondrops have. So if you're a bass head and you're looking at this style of headphone, I would easily say the Porta Pros are what you would want to look at. But if you're somebody that likes more details and you like a more open sound, the Moondrops definitely stand out here. They kind of resemble an open back headphone a lot more than the Porta Pros do. There's more space in the sound, and maybe that's why it's not able to get the punch that the Porta Pros do, because the Porta Pros feel a little bit more isolated than what the old-fashioned headphones do. But where the Moondrops excel is when it comes to the mids. The mids definitely seem a little bit more pushed forward, so hearing vocalists, dialogues, acoustic guitars to me just sound better on the Moondrops. And same thing with the treble. The treble has a nice brightness to it. It's a lot sharper than it is in the Porta Pros. I feel like the Porta Pros have a slightly more laid back feel than the Moondrops do, where the Moondrops is focused on detail and brightness and clarity, but still have a really nice punch to it. It's just a lot more subtle if you're going to be comparing the two. The Porta Pro just has much better low end. Now, when it comes to the Soundstage and the sound imaging, because both of these are open back, they do have a nice open sound, but the Moondrops are noticeably wider sounding. They sound like you have a lot more space. Both of these do an excellent job of being able to tell where different sounds are coming from. So as you can tell, they both have their own strengths, and they both are giving you different reasons to buy one headphone over the other. So to wrap this video up, and my honest opinion is, because you can get both of these for about $25 to $30 a piece, it kind of makes sense just to buy both. It's going to come in a lot less than just buying, many other headphones on the market. You're getting two different sound signatures. So if this is a style of headphone that you like and a style of headphone that you prefer, it's nice to just have, both options, because if you're in the mood to listen to, more orchestrated stuff or strings, or you really want to focus on vocals, it's nice to have the Moondrops for that. But if you are looking to just kind of have a little bit more fun with your music, and you're listening to more pop and hip hop, or if you just want to feel the drums a little bit more, it's nice to have the Porta Pros to be able to bring out the bass a little bit more. I don't think you could go wrong with either. I definitely see why people would want both of these compared, but I do see that there are two completely different headphones, even though they have two similar styles. But guys, that wraps up my video and my, kind of quick comparison between the KOSS Porta Pro Classics and the Moondrop old-fashioned headphones. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.